In the Wheel of Time, the female Forsaken weren't just villains. They were symbols of ambition pushed beyond all limits. But who among them was the most powerful? Who shaped the world the most? And who fell the hardest? Let's unravel the tangled legacies of the women who served the shadow, not just with might, but with terrifying intelligence and ruthless purpose. Lanfeir? Marin Aeronale, known to the world as Lanfeir, was once a brilliant researcher in the Age of Legends, curious, fearless, and dangerously intelligent. But when she sought to access a power beyond the One Power itself, she drilled the bore that freed the Dark One. That single act rewrote history and set the course for every tragedy that followed. Yet her greatest strength wasn't only her intellect or even her incredible ability with Sehage. It was her passion. Lanfeir didn't simply seek power, she craved worship. She wanted Luz Therin to love her with the same fire she felt for him. And when he didn't, she turned to the shadow, not for vengeance, but to become something more than love. Among the Forsaken, Lanfeir was never the strongest in raw strength, though she ranked near the top. But her talent for Telerenerhiad, illusions, and dreamwalking made her nearly impossible to predict. She played long games, manipulating Rand with both affection and threats. Her reappearance as Selene, a mysterious beauty guiding Rand toward Calendar, was one of the most unsettling moments in the series. She wasn't a brute force like Sehage. She was the whisper in your ear, the hand in your dream, the lover in your nightmares. But Lanfeir's obsession was also her undoing. She could not let go of Rand, could not move beyond the love she had for Luz Therin. That weakness made her volatile. She died falling through the twisted realm of the Elfin, only to be resurrected by the Dark One as Synindane, a paler, angrier version of herself. Her strength diminished, her autonomy stripped. She became a tragic echo of the woman she once was. Yet even broken, she remained dangerous, because Lanfeir was never just about strength. She was about control, and in the end, even when she was leashed, the fear she inspired was still alive in the hearts of her enemies. Graindle. Camaril Moradam Ninder, better known as Graindle, once served the light as a leading mind in psychology and emotional therapy. But something inside her snapped, somewhere between knowing how to heal the mind and realizing how easily it could be dominated. When she turned to the shadow, she transformed her intelligence into a tool of subjugation. Unlike Sehage, who used pain, Graindle used pleasure. She bent rulers into helpless servants, with weaves of compulsion, so delicate they left no trace, no memory, no will. Her true power wasn't in the strength of her channeling. It was in her ability to change the world without anyone realizing she touched it. While others fought wars, Graindle unseated monarchs, collapsed alliances, and turned heroes into slaves. Her fortress of decadence was more than a palace. It was a symbol of her philosophy, that control through pleasure was more complete, more insidious, and ultimately more lasting than any army. And the men and women she collected as pets weren't trophies. They were weapons, status, and shields. But Graindle's arrogance eventually caught up with her. She underestimated Rand al'Thor and was struck down by Balefire in a rare moment of his unchecked rage. Her death should have been final. Instead, she was resurrected as Hesselom, without forgiveness, her beauty stolen, her status shredded. And yet, even then, she remained deadly. In the last battle, her skill with compulsion nearly unraveled entire battlefronts. But she was finally outwitted by Andril Genhald, whose innovative use of gateways turned her own tricks against her. Graindle's strength wasn't that she was invincible. It was that she made you believe she was. And when that belief cracked, so did she. Sehage. Sehage wasn't just feared. She was worshipped by some and loathed by all. More Nemin Demenderboen. She was once a healer in the Age of Legends, but her fascination with pain overtook her devotion to healing. She began torturing patients, exploring the thresholds of agony and consciousness under the guise of research. When discovered, she didn't deny it. She embraced it. Her path to the shadow wasn't one of corruption. It was one of alignment. The Dark One gave her what she always craved, the right to inflict pain without consequence. In raw strength, Sehage was among the most powerful female channelers in the series. Her control over Sehage was matched by her command of fear. She killed for pleasure, but also for purpose. Her torture sessions weren't random. They were works of art. Her ability to break even the strongest minds made her more terrifying than any blade. She captured and tormented Aes Sedai, bonded Myrddraal, and infiltrated nations without ever raising suspicion until it was too late. Her impersonation of a Cincian noble nearly shattered the Westlands' last hope for alliance. But even Sehage wasn't invincible. When she was finally captured, it took a circle, a trick, and massive luck. Her demise came in a moment of desperation, but even cornered, she remained a threat. When she used the true power to try and kill Rand, it forced him to cross a line he never thought he would. Using the true power himself, in doing so, he defeated her, but marked himself forever. Sehage's death was not an end. It was a scar, because she didn't just kill people, she changed them, and the echoes of her cruelty lingered long after she was gone. Misana. Misana was never the loudest or the most feared of the Forsaken, but she might have been the most dangerous where it truly mattered. Unlike others who sought power through kingdoms or carnage, Misana set her sights on the White Tower itself, the heart of order, knowledge, and tradition. She was not interested in fire and conquest. She wanted infiltration, subversion. She wanted the tower to rot from the inside out while no one noticed she was even there. In the Age of Legends, Misana was a scholar denied recognition in academia, embittered, brilliant, and obsessed with being seen as a force of authority. When she turned to the shadow, she shed her hunger for truth in favor of control. Her weaves were subtle, her goals strategic. No lightning, no balefire, just the slow collapse of trust, structure, and stability. During her unseen infiltration of the White Tower, she manipulated Ojaz, escalated tensions, and planted seeds of doubt that bloomed into civil war. She nearly broke the Aes Sedai without ever revealing her face. Her downfall came not from a duel of power, but from a duel of wills. In Tel'aran'rhiod, she faced Egwene Alvirin, still young, still growing, but increasingly anchored by clarity and self-mastery. Misana, for all her cunning, could not imagine losing to someone so inexperienced. That arrogance was her end. Egwene shattered her mind within the dream world, not with strength, but by making Misana's self-image collapse. Her body lived, but her identity didn't. She was reduced to a childlike state, no longer Misana, no longer dangerous. Her story is a study in contrast, intellect without empathy, power without humility. And in the end, she wasn't burned away like the others. She was broken, forgotten, unmade not by death, but by loss of self. Mogideon. Mogidion's name means spider in the old tongue, and no name has ever fit more perfectly. Among the Forsaken, she was the weakest in raw strength, but perhaps the most cunning in survival. Where others fought in daylight, Mogideon thrived in shadow. She struck only when her target was alone, vulnerable, and unaware. She didn't seek glory. She sought dominance through fear. Her webs were tight, invisible, and deadly. In the Age of Legends, she was not a leader or a general. She was a bureaucrat, a manipulator of systems. When she turned to the shadow, she simply applied those skills to more dangerous work. In Tel'aran'rhiod, she became one of the most adept users of the dream. Her control over it matched only by Lanfeir and Egwene. She could disappear in a blink, mask her presence, and kill you in your sleep. But her greatest strength was also her greatest flaw. She never stopped running. Mogideon was always hiding, always retreating, always surviving. Her story takes a humiliating turn when she is captured by Nynaeve, enslaved with an Addam, and forced to serve her enemies. This reversal exposes Mogideon for what she truly was, not a queen of webs, but a creature of fear. After her escape, she returns to the Shadow Service, eventually leashed again by Mogideon. In the last battle, she tries to play both sides, to find a corner where she can wait it out and survive once again. But this time, the world doesn't forget her. She is leashed again by Lanfeir Synindane and forced into servitude. Her final fate is not fiery or dramatic. It's slow, diminishing. The spider caught in her own web, too clever for her own good, left behind as the world moves on without her. Synindane. Synindane is not merely a new name. She is Lanfeir reforged, brought back by the Dark One, but smaller, colder, and broken. Her body is changed. Her power is reduced. Her beauty remains, but it's more like a mask than a gift. Syndane's existence is a punishment. The Forsaken who fell in love, failed, and died, now revived to serve with none of her old fire. Where Lanfeir was impulsive, dramatic, and passionate, Synindane is calculating and bitter. Her obsession with Rand remains, but it's laced with pain instead of hope. She works under Mogideon's eye, used as a tool, a reminder of what happens when the Dark One is disappointed. And yet, even diminished, she is still lethal. In the last battle, her skill with the power is unquestioned. She is instrumental in assaults on Tel'aran'rhiod and nearly succeeds in capturing powerful allies of Rand. But her story ends as quietly as her life once did. She is taken by Mogideon, collared with an Adam, and used as a pawn. The mighty Lanfeir, reborn as Synindane, now reduced to a slave by the woman she once dismissed. It is one of the most brutal ironies in the entire saga. Synindane doesn't die on the battlefield. She dies long before, when the fire that once defined her is doused by shame, failure, and control. Her name may echo in terror, but her story is one of pain. And in that, she is perhaps the most tragic Forsaken of all. Suroth Sabel Melderoth was not a Forsaken in the traditional sense. She was Tseentchen, a noble of high blood and a fanatical believer in the return of empire. But her true allegiance ran far darker than loyalty to the Crystal Throne. She became a Darkfriend in secret, using her position within the Tseentchen military to expand the reach of the shadow across the Westlands. Her channeling abilities were absent, but her power was undeniable. Suroth is proof that strength, particularly in the service of evil, doesn't always come from one power. As commander of the Tseentchen invasion, she spread terror with methodical precision. Under her rule, domain collars snapped shut on dozens of channelers. Nobles were enslaved, armies crumbled, and even Aes Sedai trembled at the sound of her name. Her belief in discipline and structure made her a perfect agent of chaos, because she wrapped tyranny in the language of civilization. And when she began serving Sehage, unwittingly allowing one of the most dangerous Forsaken to operate freely, she became the Shadow's vanguard, dragging an empire into the Dark One's war. Suroth's downfall was swift, brutal, and humiliating. Tune, the daughter of the Nine Moons, exposed her treachery and shaved her head in disgrace, a fate worse than death among the Tseentchen. She was executed, not with grandeur, but as an example. But in her brief reign, Suroth brought more pain and destruction than most Forsaken ever managed. She turned a disciplined army into a tool of enslavement and brought death behind a painted fan. Power in her hands didn't need Sadar, it only needed belief, and ambition unchecked. Alvirin Freethen Alvirin was a white Aja Aes Sedai, the head of the secretive and analytical sisters, known for logic over emotion. But behind that icy exterior lay a secret darker than almost any in the tower. She was a member of the Black Aja, and the leader of its hidden ranks within White Tower. Her strength in the power was formidable, but her true weapon was the web she spun inside the tower's heart, right under the Emerlin seat. As late as Keeper of the Chronicles, Alvirin wielded the White Tower like a dagger. She twisted policy, dismantled alliances, and ensured that the tower's schism deepened. Every time Aleda faltered, Alvirin was there to push her deeper into chaos. Her secret authority made her untouchable, and her network of Black Aja sisters extended through every Aja. She was a Forsaken in all but name, a hidden empress who ruled the tower's destiny from the shadows. Her ultimate downfall came when the Black Aja was exposed and Varen's revelations forced the tower to confront its rot. Alvirin, once the whisper behind the Emerlin, became a fugitive, stripped of rank and hunted like prey. Her story ends not with glory, but with silence. But her strength, political, psychological, and magical, leaves behind a scar in tower history. She didn't channel storms or fire, but she nearly broke the tower by simply being trusted. Liandrin Geral Liandrin Geral is one of the most recognizable faces of the Black Aja. Once a sister of the Red, Known for her harshness and disdain for men, later revealed as a zealot for the shadow. Her strength in Sadar was above average, but her danger came from her ability to corrupt others. She was the spark that ignited betrayal across the tower, recruiting other sisters, turning allegiances, and leading Egwene, Nynaeve, and Elaine into one of their first brushes with real evil. Liandrin's personal philosophy, rooted in pain, control, and a craving for significance, made her both vicious and vulnerable. She didn't serve the shadow for chaos or freedom. She served it because it gave her the authority and validation she believed the White Tower denied her. In her hands, the power was not a gift, it was a weapon for dominance. But Liandrin's arc is a cautionary one. She was used, discarded, and eventually broken by the very system she embraced. Her ultimate fate is one of the most fitting in the series, collared and controlled by her own allies, reduced to a puppet of the Forsaken. Her story reveals the tragic cost of embracing the shadow not for ideology, but for ego. And though her strength dimmed, her betrayal echoes still. Millisir Chadmar. Millisir Chadmar is one of the lesser-known members of the Black Ajah, but her inclusion in the shadowy upper ranks of the organization speaks to her influence and skill. Once of the Grey Ajah, Millisir's strength was subtle, political, and frighteningly effective. She served not only the tower, but also manipulated events that aligned closely with the Forsaken's designs. Though her appearances in the books are sparse, what little we know paints a picture of a woman trusted with some of the Black Ajah's deepest secrets. Her ability to work within the frameworks of diplomacy, all while serving chaos, made her invaluable. She didn't rise to the power level of Graindle or Misana, but she occupied the same psychological terrain, a believer in control, order, and betrayal. Her fate remains unclear, swallowed by the chaos of the last battle and the collapse of the Black Ajah's inner circle. But Millisir represents the many women of the shadow who didn't need titles to change the world. She channeled power from behind curtains, and those are often the channelers we forget to fear. Final thoughts. The female Forsaken were never just foils to their male counterparts. They were architects of collapse, wielders of influence, and impressors of fear. They moved through dreams, broke minds, twisted politics, and burned the pattern where it could never fully heal. But their strength wasn't always in firepower. It was in silence, in suggestion, in seduction. They didn't just fight battles. They rewrote the battlefield. And yet, all of them fell. Not always from a blade or a weave, but from within. Pride, obsession, loneliness, fear. These were the flaws that brought down even the most powerful women the world had ever known. They were brilliant, bold, monstrous. But in the end, they were also human. And when the wheel turned again, their stories were not erased, but etched into warning.